Hi, I'm Skip Barlow, and I want to welcome you to our cooking show, What's Cooking on the Cape. During our cooking show, we're going to go to many different places and look at a lot of different species and how to catch shellfish and how to find shellfish and how to find fish. And I'm going to share with you that a lot of observations that I've made during my very long, lifelong career as a coastal inshore fisherman. We may even sometimes go out of state and fish other places just to see what things happen there. I've been doing this for a long time. I really enjoy sharing our knowledge and our recipes and our schemes to catch shellfish with the general public, and I hope you enjoy it. So we're gonna hop in our old junk truck here, and we're gonna take off, and we're gonna go see what we can find out. So come on along. What's cooking on the Cape today is going to be about soft shell clams, steamer clams, and you can shuck the same clams and use them for frying. But first we're going to talk about the areas where you would find them. Now in an area like this, we have a river that comes up underneath the road here and comes and splits into two different rivers. As you look at it, when the tide comes, it comes under that river really hard, and some of it will go to the right and goes up what they call Eel Pond. That's a river. And then there's this coastal bank right in front of us here. Now a lot of the water that comes under that bridge hits right on that coastal bank. Now when it comes under the bridge and it hits the coastal bank, it creates some erosion. But what it takes is new sand that has never been under the water, and it's real. New sand is coarse, it's not round. It's just any shape at all. It's like a snowflake. No two grains are alike. And it washes those grains of sand into the coastal habitat near where the eroded area is. And those little tiny grains of sand, when they get washed into the coastal habitat, they have oxygen surrounding them. Sometimes the grains of sand actually float. But even when they sink, the little crevices hold the dissolved oxygen for a time. And the dissolved oxygen makes it more likely to catch shellfish spat in that area, because shellfish spat always looks for an area with a good amount of dissolved oxygen. That's the big problem in the coastal community right now, is that there's not a lot of dissolved oxygen in many places. So you look for areas where there's more dissolved oxygen. This phenomenon with the erosion and the new sand and increased shellfish sets has been studied for over 100 years. It happens all over the country. But here, if someone were to build a seawall along that shoreline to stop the coastal erosion, you change the natural characteristic of the coast, and it would decrease the shellfish population significantly. Now, if you were to go up either one of these rivers, where that sand goes, you're more likely to find quahogs. And right in front of it, you'd also be more likely to find quahogs, except that particular area we know generally produces more soft-shell clams than quahogs. It's an area that's been artificially cultivated for at least 15 years. The last time I was in that area, we harvested probably 15 bushel of steamer clams in a couple of days. And then we moved on. You never take them all, you take some and you leave the seed. And about every 3 years you can go back there and harvest it commercially. But we're going to try to do it recreationally, because they're subtidal clams. They're not up on the beach where you can dig them. They're out in the water. And the hydraulic cultivator actually enhances the production of the clams, because it actually aerates the water when you're in the process of using the hydraulic cultivator. So that actually makes the areas better. But this is a clam plunger. You can pick these up usually at your local hardware store or sporting goods store. Some of them have them. If they don't sell them, you can ask them to find one. And this is a tool that the recreational shell fishermen can use to harvest shellfish or clams if the area happens to be sandy. If there's a lot of rocks in the area, they don't work very well. And in Bourne, we have a lot of areas that are rocky, but in this particular area, it's pretty sandy, and this plunger should work good. The problem with the plunger is it doesn't really aerate the coastal habitat like the jets on the hydraulic manifold that artificially aerate the water. But this will allow you to harvest the clams. You plunge them out like this. You don't actually hit the bottom with it. You kind of wash the sand away. The clams will become exposed. There'll be a little hole there. And you dip them out with this end of the rake. You dip the clams out and you'll measure them if they're small. This is the clam gauge, and it's 2 inches from here to here. So if they look like they need to be measured, that's how you measure them, right there, lengthwise. And the keepers you keep, and the ones that aren't keepers you throw back. And after you dig some out, you don't go off and make a new hole somewhere else. You stay with the same hole, and you keep washing the sides away, and the hole will cave down. And then again, you harvest more clams, and you work in the same hole. The big plus to this type of fishing with using this plunger is that you don't usually break the seed. Once you get really good with this and you don't hit the bottom, you don't break the seed, you just wash them out, and you're working just like the commercial fishermen do. You're really enhancing the fishery, because with a clam digger, every time you dig by hand, you break 25% of the seed. So if 4 people happen to go through the same area hunting for clams, they'll effectively kill about 100% of the seed in the area. But if 4 people were to go through with one of these plungers or a hydraulic cultivator, they would kill very little seed, and that's a big plus. So again, if you're going to go looking for shellfish, a good place to start is where there is coastal erosion, because again, with areas where there's coastal erosion on sandbanks, and the new sand gets into the coastal habitat and it brings with it new dissolved oxygen, you're more likely to have a set of quahogs. So if you're to go up this river, you're going to find quahogs in that river. It's very rocky, but you're very likely to find quahogs in that river, and you're very likely to find quahogs going up the river the other way. The further away you get from that sandbank, it doesn't get better most of the time. You know, once in a while you get a natural set for another reason, but you can always count on that sandbank to renew the coastal habitat. So we're going to go over there and we're going to see if we can get some clams. When the tide comes up the river underneath the 2 bridges, when the tide is coming, and it's going right now, that's when you can really see a lot of clam holes here. Clams like to feed on the coming tide, and when the tide is going, they pull their necks in, most of them, and the holes get silted over. But as soon as the tide starts coming, they'll push their neck up to feed. They want food, and they want dissolved oxygen. Now, I'm going to walk around over here where I think there's clams. You don't see any holes at all. You have to try around, but I'm pretty sure there's clams right in this area because of the coastal bank erosion. This area, commercially, this little strip here produces as much as 40 bushels per year, but on an average produces about 15 bushels of clams a year, which would translate into 60 to 80 pecks, which is a lot of recreational shellfish. So we can take the jet clamp, the hydraulic clamp device, or whatever you want to call it, put it in the water, but you don't want to hit the bottom with it. You just want to make a hole. It's going to take a while. It doesn't happen easy. It doesn't happen quick.
Again.
I may get more quahogs than clams. That happens. But we made a little hole here, and we'll let it clear up because the tide's coming this way. And then we'll put our rake in and see if we have a few clams. And we have 1 clam and 1 quahog. And that's okay. I'm going to put them in my basket. Then I'm going to go work around the edge of that hole. Now, I didn't break any seed. There's 2 seed clams that I can see very clearly on the bottom here. If you want to walk out here, you'll be able to see them. I harvested 1 adult clam, 1 adult quahog. Here's 1, 2 small clams, and 1 small quahog. And we didn't break anything. Those, when the tide comes, they put their foot out and they'll dig right back in. So now I'll wash the hole a little more. You can see the hole here. This is where I've been working. I really want to get over this way, kind of behind that rock, because it makes a little eddy. And when you have a little eddy, a lot of times, you'll get more shellfish. I don't know why, but maybe they just wash there when they're small. I can see that I'm churning up some seed shellfish, but I don't know if I want to get any big ones. And the way it is with clams, you're not going to get big ones until you get down deep. Again, we've got a clam here. It's a seed, it's not a keeper. And there's a lot of seed clams, smaller clams here. So I'm going to move to a little different location and see if I can do better. Because I'm washing out a lot of small clams here. Walk over this way. But over here, we're getting bigger clams and less small clams. So I'm going to wash out more small clams than you have to. Then we got 3 more adult clams. We're only going to get a couple of dozen clams today because we're just going to show you how to make a 1-serving little clam boil. But if I wanted to get a peck of clams, I could stay here for an hour or 2 and I'd get a peck of clams. That's how you'd measure them, lengthwise. And I'll take my glove off so you can see better. That's about 2 inches long. You'd put him in the measuring device that way to make sure he's 2 inches long. And he's about 2 1/4, so he makes it. And that's how you'd measure a clam. Coming through from the other side, you can see he doesn't come through. That's 2 inches from there to there. Okay, usually start a hole where you think there's clams, then you work around that hole. And when you get small clams, it doesn't mean there's no big clams there, but small soft-shell clams have shorter necks, so they're closer to the surface. Bigger clams underneath them. See, we got 4 small clams, 1 big clam. I'm going to move again to get away from the small clams, because there's no sense in just washing out the small clams. You just leave them sit, and in 5 months from now, those clams will be legal-sized clams. So I'll walk around the other side of these rocks and see what's there. But we almost have enough clams already for a meal. All right, we've moved about 25 feet. We're on the other side of these little bunch of rocks here. And I want you to see how quickly habitat changes. Now, the habitat over there was very supportive of soft-shell clams. Yet on this side of the rocks, it still gets the same sand and the granules of sand that have encompassed an oxygen. But on this side, for whatever reason, quahogs want to live. And there's 1 clam here, but this is more quahogs than it is clams. And we've moved 25 feet, yet the whole environment for a particular species has changed. And as you go up the river further, you'll find more quahogs like this. So we'll throw these quahogs in our basket too, and we'll go home and we'll have a little bake. One clam. I'm going to put this rake down. If you're going to measure quahogs, they have to be 1 inch thick. Now this quahog here, it's a pretty small quahog, but he doesn't make it. He's not quite 1 inch thick. He's a seed quahog. So we'll throw him back. This guy's not much bigger, but he makes it. He's a keeper. And of course this is a keeper. So we'll just pick up our stuff. We're going to go back to the house. And we're going to make ourselves a little snack, a nice little lunch, show you how to make easy 1 or 2 serving meal. All right, we're back at the house, and we're going to make a little clam boil. It'll be enough for 1 or 2 people. We're going to use a potato, red potato, and I washed it off. Some linguiça. Linguiça is Portuguese sausage. We're going to quarter this. We'll use a couple of pieces. I'm going to cut up some peppers, and I've got multicolored peppers here, red and green and yellow, and some onion. And I use about 1/3 of each pepper, 1/3 of the onion, 2 pieces of linguiça. I'm going to take this potato and I'm going to cut it in wedges. I'm going to try to cut everything so it takes the same amount of time to cook. To steam clams in the microwave and small quahogs takes about 6 minutes. So if you cook in the microwave a lot, you try to figure out how long it takes to cook different thicknesses of like potatoes or linguiça or peppers. And if you watch me, you'll see what I like to do for about 6 minutes. And actually, you can go 6 to 8 minutes on this. So I'm going to take the potato, and this is an average size red potato, and I'm going to cut it in wedges, not too much bigger than you cut for, say, lemon in your iced tea. So this size wedge is what I would use. And that would be enough for one serving. That would be enough potato. So we're going to try to do 2 servings here. So that should be enough potatoes for 2 people, because they're really going to be wanting to eat the clams. So we'll set the potatoes, we'll set the clams and quahogs in first, so they're on the bottom. What's going to happen is, I didn't put any water in here. The juice comes right out of these quahogs and clams, and they'll steam in their own juices. But not only will they steam in their own juices, they'll pick up a little flavor of the linguiça, a little bit of onion and pepper. So we'll set these in here and space them around. And I like to be able to get the lid on it because it keeps the steam in. So that's it for the quahogs and clams. And that's it for the potato. Now, the linguiça, I'm going to quarter that. These are about 3 inches long, and I'm going to cut it in quarters. And you can buy linguiça and pepper and potatoes all at your local grocery store. You don't have to use sausage if you don't want to. I like it for the flavor. And I like to eat it too. You know, probably going to use a quarter of each pepper, maybe even a little less, because I'm going to be tight on room. And we're really just adding the pepper for the color and for a little bit of the taste. You know, it helps. If you go to the fair in the summertime, like I do, you know, I like sausage and peppers and onions and, you know, all cooked and fried together, but they're not bad steamed together. And remember, you're trying to make enough for 2, so of course this might just be enough for me, but you want to make it for 2 people. This is pretty simple. And microwave cooking is a lot faster. Normally what you used to have to do is put this stuff in a pot and put it on the stove and steam it. And because you'd have to use a lot of water, you lose a lot of the flavor in the juice. But using the microwave oven and just using the natural juices, you'll get more flavor. You won't be losing it. Okay, so I got to get my onion in there, so I might chop my onion up a little smaller. Most people, you know, will peel their onion first, and I didn't. Onions make me cry. And the onions really add a lot to it, so the main thing is try to get everything cut so that it'll cook in 6 to 8 minutes. And I've got so much stuff in here now, I'm going to say 8 minutes, because I do want it to all get really hot and steam together and cook really well. And I am making 2 servings rather than 1. But this really isn't taking a lot of time. I'm into this probably 5 minutes. I want the lid to fit on good and tight. There's a little hole in the lid to let the steam out, so it doesn't explode or anything. And I'm going to put it in the microwave. Because it is as full as it is, I'm going to put it in for 8 minutes. And when it's done cooking, and we'll take it out, I've got about 1/4 of a stick of butter here in a glass bowl. Now, when you take that out, we'll put this in the microwave and we can watch right through the window till it melts. It'll take about a minute or so for this to melt. But it might take a minute and a half. We'll watch when we do it. So I'm going to clean up here while this is cooking and we'll be ready for it when it comes out. There's about 1/4 of a stick of butter in this little glass pan. I'm going to put it in the microwave for about a minute and let it melt. So we'll have drawn butter. Now I'm going to take and split this up a little bit. We'll get some, you can see here, we've got some. I'm going to dump the broth off first. And there'll be a significant amount of broth here. And I hope I can do it. And the broth is what you use to rinse your clams and quahogs off in before you dip them in the butter. So, there's the broth. The drawn butter is just about all melted. And you can see it there. It'll continue to melt because the butter is just going to melt the patties. And I'm gonna push out some clams and some potatoes. The potatoes are nice and soft. They're all cooked. The clams are all steamed open. The quahogs are all steamed open. I'm having a hard time making 2 servings out of this because I just want to eat it all. But it is. Oh, I'll show you what it looks like. I wish you could smell it. It's just, these potatoes are perfect. Everything's perfect. This is pretty scary because I cooked it. I'll set this off to the side. I need this one more quahog here because I really like the quahogs. And I'll hold it out so you can really, really see it. Now you take the quahog, dip it in the broth, or the clam, dip it in the broth, dip it in the butter, and you eat it. And of course you have potatoes and vegetables and linguiça. A little bit of everything there.